there's a tear in the screen.
Not quite right.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Let's Make It Better. The project of the day is this very tired 10-year-old screen door. While it does still have some screen and is still kind of a door, it is not really functioning as a screen door. So let's dive in, look at all the things wrong with it, and figure out a way to make it better. Here we go. This is definitely an issue. That's also super gross. And we've got rot all the way at the bottom, plus more here. All of this is not good. Oh, that's loot. So this thing, she's down, she's hurt. So it really doesn't take too much to assess the damage. Now the screen itself would be entirely replaceable. Like if you had kid bust his hand through it, or a drunk buddy at a barbecue, or a buzzard, or that just your screen came loose or got a hole in it, that's easy enough to fix. But in this case, our door frame is over 10 years old, was never really weather treated, and well, the fact that it held up this long is quite remarkable. So we went ahead and opted for the brand new door. Now we got the cheapest one available. In an unusual turn of events, we're actually going to prep it the right way, meaning we're going to pull the screen out, actually put a coat of stain on it to weatherproof it, which is something we clearly didn't do on the other door. Even though we didn't do that, it lasted almost 10 years. So we're actually going to do the right thing though, and we'll take a look at the quality of the door, how to pull it apart, and then, you know, how to make it more weatherproof and potentially better looking if we don't screw it up. This was 65 American dollars. Yes, the door is very cheaply made, but it still counts as an inexpensive door relative to the quality, meaning we could build a door from scratch, but we'd be way in over 65 bucks. Lumber is really expensive, plus we'd have all the time to do the joinery. So let's take a look at the other side. That's kind of where more of the issues are. I went through every door at the store, and whoever was stocking them just didn't care, and so they were all dinged up. This was the best one. All right, so the inside of the door is the part where the quality really shows its failure, but even the more expensive doors were put together like this, so it has more damage, again, all from, you know, careless shipping. But what are you gonna do? Oh, dang it, I didn't even realize that. I knew the screen was coming out. I did not realize it was missing our little rubber spaghetti that holds the screen in, but we'll get to that in a minute. Interesting, and they just used all the offcut because it has this same dado. That's a dado. All right, gang, I think I just haven't had enough coffee, because I'm at a point where I think I'm gonna try to actually do this correctly, which means we want stain in all of these grooves, especially these grooves, because if moisture gets in there, the rubber tubes, spaghetti things that hold the screen in, will hold the moisture in there. So I'm gonna pull the screen out. The reason I wanna do it is because the way that you install a new screen is to put it in with these rubber things, and all the excess hangs out, and then you run a razor and cut it, which means this screen is already kind of tight and fits where it's supposed to fit. So getting it back in is going to be a pain in the butt, and may prove to be impossible. And then I'm going to be spending even more money buying a new screen and laying it in, but I'm going to take the risk. Pulling the screen out is pretty simple. Hand on these little tubes, and we'll hang on to these and reuse them. Now the thing about it is, if you're going to add stain or paint, if you're going to do any kind of half-decent job, which I do not require anyone to really do on their own home, you can stain it with the screen on. You might get a little in the screen itself. If you try to paint it in the screen with the screen on, you know, you have some issues. Especially like with the screen here, this will all be raw wood. So as water drips down it, again, lasted 10 years, states of fading glory for the last like 9.5 though. We're doing this one more better. Right is an exaggeration, but more better. Go through the doors. I went through every one in the rack that was the right size. Most of them had significantly more damage than this one, or ripped screens. Oh, there's a tear in the screen. So the plan's really simple. I'm gonna grab a random orbit sander, which we'll set up with probably a 220, and just hit all this fuzzy stuff that's floating around over here. And then we're gonna get all these marks off. And then I'm gonna soften any parts that are all splintery and broken. And while I'm at it, I'm just gonna soften all these edges. Never hurts to just round that over just a fuzz. Plus, I have a dog that's kind of like those raptors in Jurassic Park, and she can open doors. She'll pull it open with her little dog hand, but when she's like leaving the house, she uses her brain pan as a door opener. So, you know, for the dog's sake, we're gonna make sure it's not so pointy at the edges. For this job, we're gonna use any old kind of random orbit sander. If you don't have a sander, this is the kind to start with. This should be your first purchase. Doesn't matter if it's battery powered, solar powered, nuclear powered, or just regular old Edison plug-in powered. These are the most forgiving. It's easy to put the sandpaper on. Basically, it's called a random orbit because it spins in a rotation, but it also does a jitterbug at sort of like a random speed, and that keeps you from getting as many sanding marks if you don't like really dive into it, which we are not going to do. I am using 120 grit sandpaper because I don't have 220, but if you have 220, that's the guy for the job. Look at that. One-handed, done. All right, this is going to get loud, but the idea is you just got to let the tool do the work, meaning just let the sander kind of glide over the top, real gentle. You don't have to push down, you don't have to dig in. For today's adventure, I bought this Varathane wood stain. I don't know anything about it. It says premium, so let's hope it's good. It was just on the shelf where the Minwax products used to be, so I guess we're gonna try it. It says it dries in 1 hour. I try to give this stuff a shake. Sometimes they say don't shake stain, but sometimes the pigment actually settles into the bottom. But that's my own experience. You do you, depending on what kind of instructions you like to follow. I got a cardboard thingamadoo because remember, you're trying not to make more of a mess and create more projects for yourself while you're trying to make something better. Remember the rules, right? Don't hurt yourself. Don't break anything that's not already broken. Then, and only then, try to fix something. In an extraordinarily unusual turn of events, I went and got gloves, which are a good thing because stain is best applied with a rag or cloth, or in our case, we're just gonna cheap out and use a paper towel. But it gets all over your hands, and then you got to clean your hands with basically mineral spirits or acetone, which is not great. I never use these, but I found them. And I found an actual paint opener as opposed to a screwdriver. These are great not only because they open paint, but this end will open a beer. We're all prepared to go. Applying stain, I'm going to use these shop rags. They're pretty thick. You can use pretty much anything you want. Foam brush, paintbrush, old dish towel, rag, stain applier thing, paper towel. It's gonna be okay. I promise. There are better ways than others, but they all work. Now, the trick to stain, it's pretty easy, is don't put it on too thick. If you've never done stain, that's a pretty useless piece of information. What's too thick? Well, I'll show you. It's just like this. We're gonna take our applicator cloth, gonna soak it in stain. We're gonna rub the stain in, and we're gonna keep going over it so it spreads out. And if the cloth keeps picking it up and moving it around, see it's thin there? So long as this cloth keeps picking the stain up and sliding it around, it's too thick. As soon as the cloth stops picking it up, you're good to go. Now, what we're gonna do in here, because I wanna get down into this groove, is I'm gonna put way too much stain down in there and just try to kind of push it around. The thing about stain is when it's too thick, it just doesn't dry. Like, it kind of gets gooey. If that happens, it's not the worst thing in the world. You're gonna be okay. We'll find a way around it. But for the most part, that's it. You know, the cloth, you can run the dry part over it. It's not really picking much up. It's soaking into the wood. You don't have any puddles. That's it. You're good to go. So you can see it puddling up in the actual grooves, but I am okay with that. Like I said, that'll remain kind of sticky, which is not ideal in any situation, but it's gonna be okay right there. As you're doing this, there's a couple things to note. End grain right here, like this, soaks up a lot more stain than the not end grain. So just get used to that. If you're working on a surface you really care about, put down a drop cloth or take this out into the yard. You will drip some. Stain is basically oil with pigment in it, so don't pretend like you're gonna be that good at this the first time around. So put a drop cloth down, and in a slightly untraditional move, I'm going to go ahead and flip the door over. put some paper towels underneath it on the now finished side, and we're just gonna go ahead and finish it up. Now, some people like to let the stain dry completely before they flip it over. However, as I was doing these edges, I might have gotten a bit of a wet edge underneath, and I'd rather just fill that out. And I don't think we're going to see where I flip this over. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But that is, understanding that is why I did the backside first, because all of this will be covered by screen. So where we'll see it is, you know, this very edge and maybe the top corner. So there we have it. Nice even coat, no drips, no puddles, no raw wood left. That's really all we're after. Now, as far as dealing with this stuff, if you have, I kind of feel this way about not only oil-based but also water-based stuff, the best thing you can do is lay it out and let it dry and then throw it away safely once it's all dry and crunchy. I know that feels wasteful, but by the time you're done cleaning things with all of the chemistry that's gonna like run down the sink or into the yard or into the water table, the best thing to do is just let it dry and, you know, be inert and then throw it away. All right, gang, so we're just about to put the screen on. But I wanted to just bring you in so that you understand what's going on, because if you're just waiting for the screen part, just fast forward a little more and we'll show you how to put a screen in a door like this, if that's all the replacing you need to do to solve a door like that. Take a look at this. The joinery on these things is not terrible. You can see how this piece kind of sleeves into the notch, routed out in this piece. The issue becomes they don't really use enough glue or a lot of glue or the right glue or something. Any good woodworker will tell you that it's the glue bond that's doing 90% of the work. Then the fasteners they use are basic 18 gauge, I think, maybe 22 gauge brad nails, finishing nails. But they do it through the thinnest part of the wood. So we're gonna add some lattice to the bottom interior so the dog doesn't crash through the screen when she's trying to push her way out. And then on the top end, we're gonna add a couple of screws just to keep this thing from sagging, which they are indeed prone to do. Now, I've got the original screen that came with it that we took off, which is really a requirement for any time you're trying to actually put a finish on this stuff, not only for aesthetics, but for actual weatherproofing. The thing is, as we discussed a little earlier, is this screen has already been cut to size. To save myself the potential aggravation and trip to the store, I also bought a replacement screen. I figured I may as well try to reuse the existing screen, but if it doesn't work out, I'm saving myself a trip, and if I don't use this, I will just return it. And this was $10.48. The plan here is to go ahead and start lining up our long edge, meaning I need to make sure that I have enough up top and enough out to the side, and then we're kind of going to stretch it that way as we go. Now, the new kit actually came with the roller tool that you use to install these. It looks like a dull miniature pizza cutter. It's not a necessary tool. If you don't have the roller tool and you're just trying to put the door back together that you just purchased, there's a couple of household items that you may have that will help you solve this little problem. Now, your hand, you can push it in with your finger for most of the way, but to get it all the way in, you probably have some takeout chopsticks shoved in a drawer somewhere, or you most likely have a butter knife. And if you're watching this channel to do some kind of DIY repair, it's very unlikely that you set your table. And if you do set your table, I don't think you use the butter knives, but maybe you do. Anyway, if you don't, this gives them a purpose. So just take the blunt edge and see how much further it's like going down in there. That's really all you're after. No extra money on tools that you're guaranteed to lose. I mean, the only thing more useless than a butter knife when you're done with this project is that screen installation tool. All right, version 2 of this chopstick may even work better. If you don't have a chopstick, order some takeout. They'll deliver one right to you right now. Let's take a look here. This is the frustration factor I was a little concerned about. This screen wasn't cut totally straight. I thought I had it lined up, but now that the top is attached, no bueno. We don't have enough room. So I'm gonna give myself a break and use this as a $10 convenience tax and just show you guys how to put a brand new screen in. Unfortunately, a brand new door, but it'll make my life so much easier to just lay this out, stretch it tight, install it, and then trim it. So that's what we're gonna do. See, the bird agrees. He just started singing. Day's just getting prettier. Here we go. All right, it's likely we could force this into working, but we just don't have to because, you know, we spent $10.50 to give ourselves a break, considering this is a weekend project and, you know, we're not paying somebody else to do it. So, let's not beat ourselves up about saving every nickel. Okay, we got this stuff. It's a slightly different style. This stuff is hollow and has these ridges in it. I actually don't know if that holds any better than this solid, more foam-like stuff, but I think either one will probably suffice here. We got our roller tool, which has a, you know, flat edge, and then this edge has a groove in it. I don't really know what the difference is. I'll probably end up using a chopstick anyway. This is where this gets way easier, just because it's significantly longer. So you can leave yourself plenty of slop on all sides, get a side in, stretch it, and then just run a razor blade down it, which is exactly what we're gonna do. Three minutes, that's all it really took with the new screen. So definitely worth the convenience tax. Only thing we got left to do is to run our razor blade along our screen and trim it right at our edge, basically like that. I'm gonna fast forward you right through this, and we're gonna move on to our overachiever couple things I'm going to do to add to the screen door. So this is a small modification that I prefer to do. They sell things that do this, but basically I just take a piece of regular old pressure treated lattice. They make a plastic version if you want white or you have a vinyl door. I attach it on the back side of the door. We're going to put some screws in it. It's going to help keep this whole door square because, you know, the joinery is not the best and the fastening is not best, and when it's on the hinges, it's obviously going to try to hang thanks gravity because the hinges are only on one side. This will help slow the sagging down a little bit. It also is great if you have dogs or little humans that might kind of just try to push through the screen at any point. We are reusing our lattice from the other door because we're nostalgic like that, and it's got all these marks from the dog. I did sand it down because it was a little rougher than I had ever realized, and I like that dog a lot. If you're going to be screwing through the end of wood or really thin wood, it really does help to drill a pilot hole. Now, a pilot hole is no more than a miniature hole, like a drill bit like so, that is smaller than the diameter of your screw shank. How can you tell? Look right at it. Just do a couple to get started. I'm going to try to tie all the pieces together here. That'll line everything up. Remember to use a screw that is, you know, less long than your material is thick. I figure I may as well show you guys a little trick. If you're too lazy to go get some drill bits, you can indeed take your screw and run it in reverse until she starts smoking, then drive it in. For some reason, the heat keeps it from splitting. Most times, the drill bit works way more consistently. Just a neat little trick. There we go. We functionally reinforced the door, plus we added the nostalgia, plus we dog child proofed it. Now it's time we gotta hang it. All right, gang, we had to pivot here. Our old hinges were, well, you know. So we went ahead with some on the face hinges. I know this may not be quite sexy enough for some people out there. And there we have it. This piece of cross bracing is not indeed necessary for the door, but it is for the dog. Short afternoon project, $100. Under normal times, under normal circumstances, this would be about a $50 to $60 project, but hey, it's 2022, so that's life. Feel free to take this, extrapolate. You can make it better than that, and you can do less than this, but this is just a reminder that you can indeed do this yourself. And don't let anybody beat you up on your aesthetic. It is 86% more mosquito proof, and it looks way better. We have a nice new door. We can enjoy the rest of our afternoon. Good luck on your projects out there. We'll see you next time on Let's Make It Better.
Come on.
That's your dog handle.
There you go.
Dog handle.
Dog door.